Hey folks, I wasn't sure if I'd turned my camera on or not, but it looks like it's running. Friday, July the 10th, I am coming to you from vacation. Technically, it's vacation. Actually, I'm just in a different location and still getting quite a bit of work done. Uh, I got a lot to talk about today, but I'm going to try to keep my eye on the time, mainly because I would like to go back out and maybe swim a little in the lake. And because I know that long videos are not fun for anybody. So, first, I want to start by talking a little bit about the virus. Um, I know you're sick about hearing about the virus, but I think it's very important to make these points and to keep them constantly in front of us. We are learning more and more every day about this virus. It is a vicious virus. It is a very difficult virus to understand. We know now that masks do quite a bit to prevent the spread. And we do know that there is a large amount of evidence, and no, mask do not make you pass out from breathing your own oxygen. If they did, then there would never be any surgeries that went past 15 minutes or so. Surgeons and all of the people in the operating suite are wearing their mask for hours and hours at a time. Many times it's a K95 mask. So we know masks make a difference. We also know that social distancing makes a difference, keeping apart, spreading out. We know that being outside changes things quite a bit and it makes a big difference. And that's because the nature of this virus and the aerosols that it produces are much easier dispersed in well ventilated and best outdoor areas. But we all can't work outside. So we also know that there is another factor, and that factor is around time. Time in which folks are together, even together with mask on and social distancing taking place. That this still represents some risk. And because of this issue that we're learning more and more about, the aerosols, when people are together and there's any kind of talking or anything like that taking place, aerosols are still being produced. And, we can't be absolutely 100% confident that mask and the social distancing are going to solve the problem. So we're learning that it's not just the factors that I just described, but it's also time. And that is one of the reasons why we implemented the travel policy because we knew that when folks come back to work, that they're spending a lot of time together, whether they are masking or social distancing or not singing or doing any of those high risk activities. They're still spending a lot of time. So um, we did implement the travel policy. I don't see how anyone could have possibly missed the point that South Carolina is in an extremely high surge time now. As a matter of fact, there's data that says that South Carolina, the state of South Carolina, if it were a country, would be ranked third in the world in terms of what is going on, our outbreaks, our cases, and so forth. That's that's in a word terrible. Um, we implemented the travel policy around hot spots, but frankly, it's beginning to look like the whole state of South Carolina is a hot spot. So um, this has put us into some pretty interesting conversations. Last week, when I talked about the travel policy and we talked about the implementation of it, I told you just as I told the board of directors when they discussed and approved the policy that we would do everything in our power to assure those that were voluntarily telling us about their leave time and knowing that it would result in quarantine time, waiting on test results, and so forth, that we would do everything in our power to assure that um, there was adequate work for them to do. As it turns out, that certainly was a lot more complicated and evidently a lot more difficult than I anticipated. We didn't do so good a job with that last week. So we are circling back around and saying, okay, let's see if we can't do a better job at this to assure, number one, that the staff trust us enough and believe what we say, that we're going to do everything in our power that they are telling us when they are in these travel areas, and that we can advise testing and quarantining until we know the test results. So we are coming up with a lot more opportunities that we're going to be providing to those staff who might not, under normal circumstances, have work from home opportunities. Denise Ellis has come up with a portfolio of training that can be done on Relias, that can be done in many different ways and will help if there are barriers to you doing that training. Um, and this is good. You know, we constantly hear that some of the most important things that are lacking in staff satisfaction is not enough training. So we've come up with this initial portfolio, and there'll probably be some more other additions to that, whereby someone can, who doesn't have the opportunity for a work from home panel of work to do, that they can do this training. And we will come up with more. And we're also, I just sent a message out to all of the members of our COVID-19 task force and said, I expect everyone to come up with ideas, think out of the box. Uh, what can someone who normally doesn't have an opportunity to work from home, who can't carry their work home with them, maybe they're on the floor doing clinical things that can't be done from home, what can they do? You know, we should be able to think about that. And think about it in a manner that is simple and easy to execute. We've got a lot of patients that we haven't seen for the last 13, 14 months. Maybe we could set up a call, a way to call those patients and just say, offer them a telehealth visit. What about the patients that are on our schedule? We're learning now that a lot of patients that are on our schedules are no showing. Patients are not immune to the news that's going on. They're hearing about the surge. They're worried, just as they were worried back in April. They're worried about coming in. So, once again, I am going to commit this to you that we're going to do better than we did last week and do everything in our power to help with any quarantine barriers that you may have. We so very much appreciate all of you who did share with us and tell us voluntarily about your leave. And we want to keep that trust and confidence that you have shown us up. We very, very much appreciate that. So, that statement that I just made, that we already are beginning to hear more and more from patients that either by no showing for their appointment or by not being willing to make an appointment in the office, that they too are concerned about the surge. So I want to remind everyone, and we also revisited some of our procedures. So I want to remind everyone of what our procedures are and how we are strengthening them and perhaps even revising them and even doubling down on them. Our job is to create a safe environment of care that is safe for you, the staff, that is safe for the patients that we serve, so that we don't contribute to the surge, indeed, that we help curb it. So, the first thing that we do, that many of y'all are already familiar with, is we screen patients at the door. We've been doing this since early on, whenever we actually had to close down the offices due to the governor's order for stay at home. We're taking temperatures. We're asking about symptoms, and that list of symptoms has indeed gotten longer because we've learned more and more about what symptoms are presenting themselves with folks that are positive with the coronavirus. We are not asking people any longer whether or not they've been tested. This was a question that we had early on whenever testing was only available to folks that had symptoms. But now testing is just available for whatever reason. You can drive by a testing event and say, oh, yeah, they're testing. I think I'll pop in there and, get tested also. So we're no longer asking that particular question. We are asking that patients mask, and we are in our offices also observing social distancing guidelines. We're doubling down, though, on our cleaning and disinfection. Um, we've always had some pretty stringent disinfection policies and procedures for our clinical areas. So we took another look at them and said those are pretty solid and they're fine, and we are confident that they are adequate. We're confident on our when we do them. We're confident on the materials, supplies that we use to do them. What we are revisiting, though, is our disinfection procedures that are in our public non-clinical areas. And that would be places like lobbies and so forth. So you're going to see come out in the very near future some very more specific guidelines and protocols for assuring that we have clear disinfection procedures on the supplies that we use, when we do it, how we do it, who does it, and so forth in these more public, non-clinical areas. So we're doubling down on that. I think I spoke last time about the air scrubbers, and we've made big progress on getting them installed throughout the organization. Sorry about that. I thought I put my phone on mute, but I didn't. We're having them installed. It's not an overnight process, but we're slowly but surely working through it. Uh, when they get installed, I'm pretty confident that you'll know we're putting up some signage and some flyers and so forth. This office protected by something like that. I'm really not sure exactly what it says, but you'll know. Be patient. We're getting around as quick as we can on this, and we're probably going to expand the number of locations to which we can install these. We've learned that our concern initially in choosing the locations was that some of our locations are not owned by us. They are owned by other entities, and other entities are also responsible for the HVAC systems, the air conditioning and heating systems. And that is where these air scrubbers are attached. They're literally attached to the HVAC system. Not every HVAC unit has to have a scrubber. We are told that in a building that, for instance, has 4 HVAC systems, that if you put a scrubber on at least half of them, that you are producing good results. So Neil and several of us are going to, take a look at this. It's not like I said, it's not an overnight process, but we're really hoping to move forward and maybe even more. more offices and other entities in our organization can get these installed. Last, I do want to talk briefly about the Inclusion Council. Uh, Shanika is doing a wonderful job getting it organized. It's kind of like trying to get your arms around a big octopus, though, and so she's working pretty hard to get it uh, so that it can be managed on Microsoft Office Teams. Um, by the way, there's very good training on Relias for learning about how to use Microsoft Office and Microsoft Office Teams. So I'm really encouraged. I believe that the work of the Inclusion Council is going to be very important work as we address inequities that would be in our organization, institutional racism, whether it impacts our staffing, our organizational policies, or our patient care. So I'm real proud of the work that she's putting forth in that, and really am looking forward to seeing what the next step and what the outcomes. So, folks, I'm going to wrap up. As usual, I like hearing from you. If you have any questions, if you have any points that you want me to make next week. Um, I think I am going to return back to vacation, and it's a pretty day on Friday. I think I might even go for a little quick swim out there. Y'all, be safe. Be careful over the weekend coming up. You're important to us. Spread the word amongst your families and friends. The surge is hitting us quite hard, and we need everyone to be very careful and very mindful. We'll talk again next week. Thank you.